individually and collectively, it's not really going to happen. It's not going to change.
Right. So guess what I did while you were talking, because you were just it was so good that I said, I'm not going to play the intro. I'm just going live. So we are live. Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. I'm with Pia and Cullen. They are both amazing ascension guides, as I am. They are interstellar communicators, authors, PhDs, you name it. They're here to raise the vibration on the planet and help us remember who it is that we are. So welcome to the show today. I'm excited to have you guys back because it's been a while. It's been a while since we've been together.
It has indeed, and we're happy to be here.
So good to, and I was thinking again this morning about, I know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the new Venus star alignment, which the new Venus point, which is a new cycle. And Pia, you have a lot of information on that you're going to hopefully share with us today. And
Be happy to, but I would like the conversation down into a more usable manner instead of the technical aspects about it, more about what it's going to mean for us individually and collectively.
Yeah.
That's I would like to go, because we're facing some very interesting energies, very turbulent times, and very much a sense of something needs to, as Lartma says, pop. Lartma talks about cosmic pops, and something needs to pop. So let's bring this conversation into a hands-on, something that people can really utilize.
I think this is good because right now the energy with the way that things are, because clearly we see and know that the way that our whole system is going, and I'm speaking particularly to the financial, the economy, the way that things are going, that we can't keep going like this because it's not sustainable, and it's very stagnant energy. It's, what are we going to do? So I think, what we're talking about with the new Venus alignment, and then I want to highlight, because it's all connected, the economy and what my desire around all of that is, and then we can go from there. So Pia, do you want to start talking about what the new Venus alignment is? And those of you that are listening to this right now, you can right away set your intention as you're listening to what this new Venus star alignment is, because as I understand it, it is a new cycle that is beginning. And now, how do we apply that practically, like you said, and how can we move in alignment so that we can right away start that momentum, that forward momentum, and making it real in our lives, right?
Well, one thing I'd like to start by saying is Cullen and I have been aware of the date of October 22nd, 2022 for years, that there was going to be an energetic shift. I don't think that we put it together with what was happening with Venus immediately when we first learned from Lartma that there was an energy that was going to be shifting, because the Pleiadians brought us this information that there were going to be changes, large changes on the planet around October 22nd of 2022. And of course, they don't use Gregorian time, and they talk about it not being a static point, but a waves of energy coming in. So we've known that this time was approaching for years and years. What I know that I'd like to share now, and Cullen, jump in anytime you'd like. What I know is that Venus makes a star, a pentagram in the sky as she cycles through her cycles. She takes 9.5 months to move from one point of the star to the next point to the next point. And it takes 8 years to go all the way around, 8 Earth years. It takes 13 Venus years, which are 2 master numbers, always used in the Pleiadian Earth energy system. So what's happening now is Venus is finally moving back into a position of the sky where she has not been since the late 1700s, early 1800s.
And that, can I
please
add this?
Please.
That time period, the late 1700s, is exactly when the American Revolution and the French Revolution happened. So what Venus is doing is bringing a cycle back that hasn't been seen for almost 300 years, which could portend a revolution. And I think that's what we're looking for. I think when we talk about the economy, I think when we talk about big changes, I think the word revolution/evolution is part of that new energy.
Venus is moving into the energy of Libra, and everybody immediately goes, oh, Libra, peace, balance, calm, harmony. All of that's true. Libra very much wants balance, peace, harmony, all of those things. But if we are badly out of balance, we have to ask ourselves the question, what is it going to take to find that Libran balance? What do we have to revolt against? What do we have to stand up and say enough? What do we have to do to participate with the opportunity for these changes that Venus is offering us? Venus, as she moves through her dance in the sky every 9.5 months, transitions from morning star to evening star, morning star to evening star, back and forth. And my view on that is that she's showing us how to use duality. As the evening star, Venus is represented as the goddess of love, compassion, grace, beauty, art. As the morning star, she is represented more as justice, the warrior woman, the divine feminine who stands up for what needs to be corrected, what's right. And we're moving into this Libran energy where both of those aspects of morning star and evening star will cycle for the next few hundred years. But we're starting with the Libra energy on October 22nd. And I think we're already feeling the waves of that rolling in. She's moving into her position to be in alignment with Earth, her cosmic twin. And we are feeling that movement already, even though the 22nd is still a few days away.
Well, you know that my birthday is on October 22nd.
We do.
I'm very much in alignment with what you're talking about. And totally, again, I'm a Libra, right on the cusp, but I totally feel in alignment with the morning star and also the evening star. But when you're talking about the revolution and evolution energy of this Venus cycle, this new Venus cycle that hasn't been around since the late 1700s, when did our monetary system become born? I'm curious, because really, I think it was only like, what was it? The fiat currency in particular. Do you know? Like, I think it was like less than 100 years ago.
It was around the turn of the century, from the very, very end of the 1800s to the beginning of the 1900s. That's when all the big boys got together. They've been called robber barons. They've been called financial controllers. They've been called every name in the book. That is when all of the original families, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the list is so long, I won't even describe all of them, but that's when all of those men got together in an agreement that they would start particular banks, they would start particular organizations, they would begin new corporations. This is when oil was discovered, that it could be used to fuel the internal combustion engine for cars. This all happened. This is when electricity was invented. All of these things that we have to pay dearly for were all in the agenda that long ago, because these men organized this so they could control the money from these natural resources. So that's actually when the fiat currency got going. But to answer your question much more deeply, I think money really got going about 10,000 years ago when the patriarchy took over the
matriarchal system.
Yeah, I want to be even more specific than that. When the patriarchy decided that women maybe knew too much, maybe they were too good at what they were doing, and the men weren't getting any traction. They weren't getting any say so, they thought, which wasn't true because women always wanted to share. But when food was locked up, when the elites decided that everybody couldn't just get their own food, that it would be under lock and key, that is when the idea of money really began. So we've been under the pall of using money as an energetic way of trading, getting anything we need that should have been free in the first place, which used to be free before that epoch started. So I think that's the crux of when it actually began.
So I think, us even asking now that we want our divine birthright, that we want, what type of economy do we want now? What is it that we, as sovereign beings, as awakened beings, what is it that we're choosing? Because Venus is also about abundance, and Venus is also about justice. So it is time for justice. It is time for the abundance to be restored back to the people. And so when you're talking about revolution, evolution, this time period, and standing up, doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go outside with a sign and start protesting. We can stand up right in our homes with our, doing our work, invoking, declaring, intending what it is that we want to create.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you remember many, many conversations ago that we had? And I suggested that if everybody in the world didn't buy gasoline or diesel for one day, it would cripple the industry. It would absolutely take them to their knees. That simple kind of action, which is Gandhi-like, it's not violent, it's not destructive. It's simply standing up and saying, we're not willing to pay these exorbitant prices anymore to keep ourselves warm in the winter. We should be warm in the winter because it's a human right. So what I think, in order to bring the balance back, which is missing, which you just brought up, Kornelia, is standing up and just doing something as simple as that. Everybody could say, I'm taking a mental health day, or I'm taking a sick leave day, and not go to work that day. And if they didn't leave the house, they wouldn't buy gasoline or diesel, and it would make a tremendous difference. I think what we need to do is rebalance what is so out of balance. And I think the ticket to this is equalizing the difference between the haves and the have-nots. It's time that we restore an egalitarian system where everybody gets an equal chance. Everybody gets an equal share of what's naturally here for us to enjoy and for us to use to make our lives easier.
Well, Cornelia, I think what Cullen's talking about is right on target. That's what we need to do. And it takes courage to do that. And I'd like to back it up a step and say, the thing that I see and notice and hear and everybody that we talk to is the element of fear. How am I gonna have this? How am I gonna have that? How will I? That is over and over again. And I think in order to stand up and take these steps that we need to take, we can't just stand in our home and intend only that we're intending that we're going to bring in balance. We do have to take action like Cullen's talking about, and it takes courage to do that. And that requires facing the fear and trusting the universe, facing the fear that I won't have enough, and moving into a place of, if I do what my heart guides me to do, collectively with everybody else who's working for the light, we will make a change that will make us all bring in abundance. But you've got to get rid of that fear element before you can have the courage to stand up and do this. And that's what I see stopping people in their tracks from taking action. They're all frightened.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because again, it's a very paralyzing energy that's out there in the collective, because it's very stagnant, because people don't know the how. And so by not knowing the how will I do this? How will I do this? They're in the future. And if we can bring it back into the present moment and work with the present moment, like one of the most powerful questions that I ask myself when I feel because I do too. I feel when I feel victim energy, or I feel like I can't do something, or I feel, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? One of the most powerful questions that I ask myself when I'm like that is, what's the most powerful thing I can do right now?
Good question. Good
That's
question.
that's one of the, what's the most powerful thing I can do right now? Because America, I think it's just in America, because I don't think it's a world thing, but technically speaking, it is all a world thing, because it is all about restoring the power back to the people. But America is also going through the Pluto return right now at the same time. And so Pluto, we're in the darkness. We are in the darkness of the underworld. And so again, it's about, and if we're feeling victim energy, which is fear, which is non-courage, which is non-confidence, which is paralyzation, if we're stuck there and don't lift ourselves out of that, remembering who it is that we are, because what is it that we're doing here? What is it that you're doing? What is it that I'm doing? What is it that so many are doing? They are here to help us awaken and remember that we are sovereign beings, and that we have the power within ourselves to rise up into the next highest expression, and that we're not victims, and that we're not the things that society has conditioned us by. It's not easy at all, but we have to do it.
Well, you just hit on something that our Pleiadian friends have told us for decades. It is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
It's not.
And
it's hard.
and I think if we can look at it from that point of view, if it's simple, that means we can achieve it. If it's simple, we can do what we need to do. I think one of the famous quotes that came from Einstein, and I'm not very good at repeating quotes, but I'll try. He said basically that you can't get out of a situation or a dilemma if you use the same energy or the same ideas that got you into that dilemma or that challenge. And I think that little statement of his rings true right now. Don't you think so, Pia?
I do. And I also want to point out something you remind me of all the time. And that is, when this happens, it's going to happen to everybody. I don't care who the 1% of the agenda, what they're doing, the billionaires. I don't care about that. What I care about is all of us who are sitting here going, what's going to happen? How are we going to handle it? It doesn't matter worrying, as you said, Kornelia, thinking about it in the future, what's going to happen. We are in this together, and whatever happens to one is going to happen to all of us. So there's nothing to be afraid of. We just have to move through it.
And that is a perfect definition of unity consciousness. What we need to do is unify our hearts so that we have the courage to stand up for justice, for balance, for all the things that we want. We have to stand up within the wisdom and the absolutely powerful energy of each one of our hearts. And by combining that energy, I think, is the best tool for achieving what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
In previous shows we talked about this before, and what we talked about was that I was expressing my frustration about how much longer is it going to take? Is it going to take about another 2 or 3 years of where we're still feeding the system, filling up the gas tank with the high prices, where we're still feeding the system? Is it going to still take 2 to 3 years before we have that, before the whole system comes down, which is what I'm asking for, which is what I'm asking God and the universe for, is a nice clean reset, a nice clean crash. that supports all of us in a really beautiful way so that we can rebuild. Because right now what's happening is we're just feeding the system. We're burning out, and we're, filling the tanks, and we're doing all of the things, and again adding so much fear into our physical bodies, which isn't healthy for our health. It's not good for our health, because again, whenever we're in fear, boom, it lowers the vibration, and and all kinds of things can happen there. So my frustration during those times when we talked about it was that we've been waiting for a long time for this, that we've been working towards and waiting for a long time for this system to change. And I really truly do hope and declare and pray that that time is now, that system that is not sustainable, that is not for the people, that has been toxic, and that is just not part of the new earth, that it really just now, comes down.
Well,
That's a good request, Kornelia. I'll join you.
I would say a couple of things about what you just said. We are in the process now. We don't have to wait for 2 years, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. We are actually in the process. And believe it or not, the whole COVID incident has helped to wake people up to the truth about what's going on behind the curtain. That the wizards behind the curtain are not magic. They're just controllers. So this process unbelievably has been sped up in the last 2.5 years because of what COVID brought to our consciousness. So we're in the process. There's no doubt about that. How long it will take, I have no idea.
But you have to refer to what you said a minute ago and not think about how long it's going to take. We're in it now. Just go back to here we are now. What do we need to do in this moment?
And I would like to see it be as seamless and smooth and filled with grace as you do. However, there is a caveat here. Any new birth, if we use human birth as an example, in the process, there is pain, there is labor, there is tension, there is discomfort. So when this process becomes more actualized, when this process really becomes more in the cycle of the changes that we are seeing day by day, week by week, there will be pain. There will be, I don't know if I can use the word suffering, but I think discomfort. Thank you, Pia. So even though we all want it to be as seamless and easy as possible, there has to be that balance of it's going to rock the boat.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry, Pia, but let me just add this in. If it's going to rock the boat, and I think this is the next level, because during COVID, a lot of people were really invited to look at their values and what is it that they want in their life, and really take a look at how they're living, what their relationships are like, how they're, creating. And now I think this next rocking of the boat is going to invite the next wave of awakening for the sleepers, the people that, have no idea about the controllers and the people of what you were talking about.
I think you're right. Go ahead.
What I was going to say also is that I would really like to see people stop asking for it just to be given to them. This thing that floats around all over internet and through all kinds of sources, that they're going to receive this money and everybody's going to have abundance. Stop the illusion and look at where we are. Nobody's going to give us this. No energy has been holding some sum of money that's suddenly going to be freed up and then given to humanity. We are the ones who are responsible for making this change. We have to do it. So stop standing here looking at, oh, well, somebody's going to give it to me and we have to get down to it and do the work.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to go back to what Colin said about the birth and the discomfort and the uncertainty and the what was the word I was thinking when you were talking? Discomfort, but also the uncomfortableness,
Mhm.
right? The just being uncomfortable. And that I think is also another big piece with where we are right now, is that humans don't like to be uncomfortable.
No, we don't.
You
That,
know?
oh my, that Cornelia, that brings up something that P and I have been tossing around, talking about. And actually, our Pleiadian friends spent an entire international live call this past Sunday night on this topic. And this is addictions.
Oh, yeah.
People don't want to be uncomfortable. People don't want to feel pain. And what do they do first? Whenever something comes up in their lives that's uncomfortable, they run to an addiction. And I mean this wholesale. This is
This is not just drugs and alcohol.
we're talking about everything that's addictive behavior that all of us participate in every single day. We need collectively as a species to look at ourselves, look at our shadows, look at how we live our day every single day, and ask ourselves, did I do that? Did I run to the cookie jar just because something bad happened? Did I run to go to the liquor store to buy more alcohol because when I drink, I feel a little bit better? I mean, we really truly have to look at our daily behaviors.
Including, did I grab my cell phone and start scrolling for information to distract me? Or did I absolutely have to talk to somebody else in that moment so I wouldn't feel what I'm feeling? I mean, the addictions are everywhere.
And I think
They're
that
I want to say that, you're talking to a former addict where I was on drugs for 13 years of my life. I, smoked cigarettes, but also cocaine and hard drugs. And so overcoming the addictions, from that right there, in order, because all I wanted to do was numb myself so that I don't have to feel the pain, just keep numbing, keep numbing. And it's the same thing. And what I discovered in my emptying out of the root cause of addiction is a lack of self-love. And actually what's there, there may be a shadow for the person to look at. I hate myself.
yeah,
And that's why I don't want to feel that. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see that. I'm going to eat this cookie. I'm going to scroll here. I'm going to do this. And the other thing that's really big with this is, the marijuana piece. I mean, I used to be a smoker back in the day, and but nowadays everyone is making it seem like, because it's been legalized, like it's like, just like every people can just go ahead and get high, and that's going to take care of that uncomfortable feeling too.
exactly,
They're
exactly.
doing that with all kinds of things.
It's amazing. Go ahead.
Absolutely. They're going on ayahuasca trips for the wrong reason.
Oh my God. All you have to do is, forget about the ayahuasca and take your spiritual life. And
Yes.
that is the ayahuasca.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing. The whole ayahuasca situation worldwide, so many people going to South America, Central America, and Mexico. We hear of so many bad trips, just like in the 60s when people were using mostly LSD, but other hallucinogens. We can't use those tools for spiritual growth unless we've done the foundation work. If we've done the foundation work, if we've looked successfully at our shadows, if we've looked at what we don't like about ourselves, then we're prepared to use that plant medicine to take us to a deeper, higher spiritual plane. But if we don't do the work in the first place, it's just going to be, and I hate to say this, it's just going to be another addiction.
And there's another element to addiction that Larkma brought up in our live call on Sunday. And if people want to hear that in more detail, they can go to our website and look it up.
Tell
But
us where the website is right now, Pia.
it's larkma.com, LAARKMAA.com. Just go to the section on recordings and look at the recording for Sunday, October 16th. And it's there, a whole thing about addictions with varying steps to what we need to do. But what I want to bring out that they said on Sunday was that there's an addiction that none of us are aware that we have, and that is the addiction to our emotions. We have been taught, and as a former practicing psychologist, I can tell you we in the field are trained to respect everybody's individuality. I think everybody has unique gifts and they're all individual. All of us are individual. That doesn't mean that we should focus on our individual feeling states or thoughts as the whole world. We need to be more in alignment with how do we affect other people? Are we projecting our emotions out on others? Are we dealing with what we feel in a positive way? Or are we just spewing because we have the right to our feelings? That's an addiction that the Pleiadians say we really need to get over.
But, however, can I
Sure.
jump in here? We're not saying by any stretch of the imagination that dealing with our emotions is a bad thing.
No.
Emotions are here on purpose, just like our ego. The emotional body is here to help us look at who we are, look at our own personal imbalances, look at what isn't working in our lives that causes the emotions to come to the surface. Working with emotions is absolutely important, and it's absolutely necessary for us to deal with our shadows and bring our vibration up as high as we possibly can. So I want to be sure everybody listening doesn't think that P and I are saying, emotions are not a good thing. Absolutely.
No, emotions are a real tool. They're a gift. They're a tool because they show us how we are out of balance. They're never about anything else. They're always about how we are out of balance, reacting, blaming, judging, something.
So you have a thought on this?
I do, because, I specialize in emotional processing. That's how I really started clearing my deep core emotional wounds of separation, shame, abandonment, betrayal, victim consciousness, the feeling of being separate from source, when that emotion, when that was cleared, because that was the lie that I had bought into, from that I was actually separate from source, when that is not true at all. Is that we've never been separate from source. We've always been at one with source. It's only that we bought into the belief that we've been separated. So when it comes to the emotional piece, I think once we clear the shadows, like you said, Colin, and once we clear our emotional core wounds and we step into our mastery, it's important to know that, like you said, Pia, what are you putting out there? What are you putting out into the field? This is a really tricky dynamic because we're empaths too. And I know that when I'm out there in somewhere and the other people's emotions, I can feel them. I can feel them. And it's not just me that can, everyone can. It's just they may not be aware of it. And
exactly.
Cornelia, that's so valuable. That is so valuable. We have the responsibility for whether we're going to react or whether we're not going to react to what we are sensing about what somebody is emoting. If they're having a fit, or if they're really unhappy, or they're yelling or screaming or judging or blaming or whatever they're doing, we have the responsibility not to react to it, to remove ourselves from the situation, to do something. But even when we take that responsibility, if the other person is not taking their own responsibility for what they're putting out into the field, everybody suffers.
Yep.
Even when you're getting attacked, when you're getting attacked, that especially then is to not, bite, not to hold on to that, and really stand in your Christ consciousness, in your source energy, and how are you responding to it? Because here's what I found with all of this. I found, especially as we're becoming, more enlightened beings. So the work that you've done on yourself, the work that we've done on ourselves, all the work that you've done, the inner work. So now when you're going around other people, you are now emitting a frequency that is supporting possibly the people that are in the room with you, that their shadow side is going to be activated, and it's going to come up to the surface so that they can see it. What they don't realize is that that is what's happening. Their emotions are coming up so that it can be catalyzed, neutralized, transcended, and released. And instead, they're pointing the finger at you, saying, "You're making me feel like this."
Yes, absolutely. You are so on target with that one.
The misconception here is that whenever people don't feel balanced or they don't feel good, there's an automatic knee-jerk reaction to point that finger and say, "You're making me feel like this." And another thing that our Pleiadian friends are trying to get humanity to understand is that nobody can cause someone else's feelings. Nobody can actually make someone feel a certain way. It's the choice of the person who's accepting whatever the energy, the information, the words from the other person. It's how they respond to it, not that they're being controlled by it.
But that's not to say, however, that there's anything wrong with saying, are you aware of the energy you're putting into the field and how it's impacting me or everybody else? That's a very different thing than saying, you make me feel bad. We have to be careful with our words.
I really see this happening a lot in the light worker communities where, where other people's shadows are being activated simply because of where you are. If you are a sovereign and empowered being, you're not hooking into, you're not buying into, you're not here to save them, you're not here to do the work for them. You are just light being. And then when their shadows, if they haven't done that, I'll use this as an example, ayahuasca journey, if they haven't done that clearing, that trip, if they haven't cleared out that shadow, it's going to come up, and maybe their mother wound issues are going to come up to the surface. So that maybe that, what's coming up to the surface is like, oh my God, I'm totally being activated right now, being triggered. This old wound is coming up, and it's reminding me of my mother who didn't give a shit about me, who didn't care, who didn't support me, who wasn't there for me. And you're bringing this up for me. Thank you.
But if they haven't done their work, you're speaking absolute perfect truth here. If they haven't done their work, they're going to automatically blame the person sitting or standing next to them because they don't know that they're being triggered on purpose. They're being triggered so that they can deal with that shadow. But it's much easier to say, you're doing this to me, or you're making me uncomfortable, or you are doing something, when it's all about them. It's all about their interior parts that they have not recognized nor worked on.
Or if you point out how inappropriate the reaction is and say, this is not good for anybody in the field, this is not good, they automatically look and say, well, what about you? The finger comes right back again.
Right back. Yeah, I've certainly been in, I've had a couple of experiences like this year, and that's why I'm speaking to it. And it's, and being in that energy, it was like I was really kind of shocked, if you will, and surprised that I'm with these enlightened people here, and they are projecting. And so then I'm just sitting there and I'm going, that's not mine. I invite you to take a look at what that is about for you, and what issues are coming up from your childhood that this is bringing up for you. So, yes. I mean, these are the kind of projections that we're talking about, and it's our responsibility now really to stay and live in our mastery and not get hooked and dragged back down and dragged back in. Because what happens if you get hooked and if you respond from a non-neutral space, where you're reacting, then you're coming from a victim stance.
That's right.
Yep.
That's absolutely right.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, there was, you guys remember Maya Angelou. Maya
Yes,
Angelou, right? She was amazing, right? A wonderful author, poet, amazing woman. But she had this quote with this consciousness that it doesn't work. And when I hear people quote the quote, I'm like, I don't resonate with it. And the quote goes something like this. I'm like you, Colin. It's hard for me to remember exactly. But the quote was something like, people may not remember you or whatever, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
People will remember how you made them feel, which right away, again, when you're bringing it up, it's you know, the quote needs to be changed.
It does.
The quote needs to be changed because I'm responsible for how I feel, because you don't have the power to make me feel any certain kind of way, because I only have that power.
Mm-hmm. It needs to be changed to, how do I feel when I'm around you? They will remember how I feel when I'm around you, not how you make them feel.
But even how do I feel when I'm around you, if your shadow side is coming up?
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. You're right.
You know, because that's another reason why when people say, I don't resonate,
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about this many times. When people say, I don't resonate, then I would like to ask, because let's look at what you're resonating to. First of all, the consciousness of what you're resonating to. But people throw that around in the spiritual community. I don't resonate. I don't resonate. I don't resonate. Like it's like some sort of a, you know, a candy word that they're just throwing around. I don't resonate. So it's kind of like, you know, they're not really going deep with it. And what I mean by that is that if you are activated and triggered, and you're not feeling good yourself right now, then maybe you're not resonating yet to this higher level of frequency because of where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You just opened a Pandora's box here, Kornelia. When we talk about addictions and habits, one of the greatest things that we could work on individually is our addiction or our habitual self-assurance about our belief systems, because we're addicted, all of us, to our belief systems. And guess what? What if our belief systems aren't true? What if they aren't real? But we still cling to them. We're still addicted to them. So when people do the I don't resonate routine, they are addicted to their belief system, that whatever that is that's coming towards them, they don't like. And if they don't like it, it's foreign to them and they're going to reject it. That is the opposite of what duality is all about. We're supposed to look at something we don't like, look at it, turn it around and say, well, maybe I never thought of that before. Maybe that's another way of looking at this. Maybe that's a different angle. Maybe if I combine that idea with my own held deeply ideas and ideals, maybe I can create a better whole. But our belief systems stop us in our tracks and go, oh, I don't like that, so I'm going to reject it. And the candy word that you brought up is perfect. I don't resonate.
Yeah. I mean, that is just, it's something that I hear, you know, people say a lot. I don't resonate. I don't resonate. And it's, you know, all the reasons of what you just said. So as you can see in our conversation today, that, you know, we have a lot of work to do.
We're still here. If we're here, we're not finished.
And
Right.
Venus is moving into position to support our being able to look at all of that with compassion for ourselves first, compassion for those who are around us second, which many people don't do. They think they have to be very good and be compassionate with everybody else, but they don't take the time to be compassionate for themselves. That has to be applied.
And that's connected to what you talked about earlier, Kornelia, self-love.
Yes.
It's actually now it needs to come to radical self-love.
Yes.
It's radical self-love. It's that reverence and that honoring of your divine self, your beautiful I am presence that you are becoming, that you really truly are.
Mhm.
And that right there deserves so much love and so much honoring, so much, like you said, compassion for, the growth and all the changes that we are going through. Now, I want to go back to the economy because that's still on the brain. And I want to say that, I talked about the 2 or 3 years, I just want to say personally, I just want to say that fine, okay? If it takes another 2 or 3 years, then of course I'm on board. But I'm going to give you my preference, and my preference is no. And I am asking for this change, this beautiful change that humanity is ready for now. That it's clean and that it's um, I'm sure it's going to be all the things we talked about, uncertain, uncomfortable. It's going to be all these things, but nothing we can't handle because we're all in it together. Go knock on your neighbor's door and see how you can support. What can you do and how you can support each other during this time. I actually have been sitting down and making a list of my skills in case this beautiful event is unfolding here pretty soon, of my skills of what I can offer.
That's
It's a
cool.
great
That
idea.
is fantastic.
Isn't
That
that
is,
a great idea? It was like, what are you skilled at? What are you gifted at? Like, what would you like to offer?
yeah.
So that you can be there for the community. And so I started making that list. These are the things. So, that is an empowering thing to do.
Mhm.
It is. It is. I don't know if this is going to make sense. I hope it will fit in with what we're talking about. When I was a little kid, when I was about 4 years old, I was a very curious little being. And my parents were very understanding. They were very supportive. And at about the age 4, I started asking questions of them. I asked them, why isn't electricity free? Why isn't food free? Why isn't heat free? Why isn't using the telephone free? And my parents looked at me, and they certainly looked at themselves because they didn't really know what to say. They were very bright. They were very, very well educated, very, very interesting, big people. And they said, well, son, apparently the world's not ready for this yet.
Mhm.
And way back then, when I was this tiny little person, I knew that all these things we had to pay for should have been God-given rights. We should have had all of this for free. Somebody should not have been making a profit on what we needed to survive and to be healthy and happy. So
You knew this as a little boy because you knew that this is the time period that we're coming in, and your parents, they didn't know that this is the time period that we're coming in. But do you remember? I do remember you sharing this before, Cullen, when you were a little boy. We've talked about this before, just like we've talked about how I shared with you my
Mhm.
song that I wrote. I want my planet back. I want my kingdom back. I want free energy back. I want my food back. I want my joy back. I want my life back. I want my children back. I want my house back. I want my joy back. All those things that the matrix and this system has stolen from us, I want that back. I want that back. And then of course, in the writing of the song, it was that I want it and I got it. Because again, it comes down to what it is that I'm contributing to this. And we talked about this earlier. What are we doing about it? What are
Mhm.
we doing about it? And how are we responding to it? Free energy, that we want our abundance back, that we want our food back, that we want our joy back. Not that we're here to feed a system that is just not sustainable anymore. And that time has come. So what I'm saying is that I would like this beautiful new beginning, because it will take a long time. It will take us a long time to rebuild, but I'm looking so forward to that time. I'm looking so forward to getting out the bulldozer and sitting on the John Deere. And, I'm just throwing this out as an example of what it is that we need to do to, plow and organize and create. And those structures and those new systems that we're going to create, that right there is going to take us a little while, because, that's not done overnight. But right now, I'm really, really ready.
We are ready.
You've been in on our conversations, obviously, through the airwaves, because we've been talking about everything you just said. We've been talking about it's high time that we be the people that we were designed to be. And we can't be those people unless what you're suggesting takes place. And this is emotional. You can hear it in my voice. Unless what you're speaking about actually takes place, that sovereignty, that humanness, all of the things that you just described, I'm afraid won't come back unless we design it, we build it, and we're the ones who have the energy, the courage, the love, everything that will take to create that. We have to do it.
We have to do it. And that's why, I'm putting my 2 cents in. And the 2 cents is that, we're ready. We're ready for this, and that we came for this, and that time is now. And I mean, when we think back to COVID, what happened when that first played out, I remember the feeling that I had was, because I work with astrology and I like, using it as a tool, that the Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn conjunction that took place in January of 2020 was actually the light, that was actually the crack that cracked everything open so the light can go in. Mm-hmm. And now we're in a phase of, with this new Venus transit, I think this is such a beautiful blessing for us. And I am so excited about it. All the deep collective shadow work that we've done, that it's time for us. It's really time for us. And that was the conversation that I wanted to have today.
There's also the point, Kornelia, that Venus is not only moving into a different position as the star in the sky, but she's also moving into a different phase. And the phase that she's moving into is about transition. It's all about, what are we going to transform? What are we going to change? So we've got a very powerful combination of Venus energy giving us doorways and portals if we just take the opportunity to use our responsible choices and walk through them.
And there are 2 eclipses that are going to take place right around these cyclical changes that both of you are talking about. And those eclipses will give us individually and collectively the time to self-reflect and the time to say, this is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is how I'm going to help change what needs to be changed.
So what do we need to transmute? Venus is asking us in this phase that she's entering into, what do you want to transmute? That's the question.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. What do you want to transmute or need to transmute?
Yes, both.
Okay. That's a good question. And another powerful question is, what can I do? What's the most powerful action I can take right now? That's another powerful question, to take yourself out of the victim state, because remember, you're not a victim. You are not powerless here. And that is something to know. I wanted to touch on another subject. We talked about a lot of things, but when it comes to a dying system that is just so completely out of balance, you know, you guys know that recently I had some health challenges that came upon suddenly out of nowhere. And do you realize that there's like 50 million people in America that don't have health insurance? And so, I mean, again, it's not sustainable. So going into the system to get medical care, you know, uh, generating like these bills that are like 10K plus. These are the kind of things that I'm talking about. That this is just not sustainable. How many of us are out there that don't have medical insurance? And that also should be free.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We don't take care of our own.
It-
We
it's-
just don't.
That also should be free. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, the things that I recently was exposed to, I really had to look at my own belief systems. Like you talked about earlier, Colin, we're so attached to our belief system. I had to look at what mine are. I thought I had these belief systems like the body has the ability to self regenerate and self heal. And now I'm really sick. What am I going to do now? And like, do I believe this still? Do I believe this still? And I had to really look at all of these things, because when you're faced again just with your own shadow, your own death, your own energy, that is where the rebirth can happen. But it is through that discomfort, it is through that pain that you talked about, that new life is born, that new systems are born, new realities are born, because your desire is manifesting that into being.
Mhm.
Powerful subjects we're talking about today.
That was good. That was really good. So we've been on for an hour. What do you want to leave? What do you want to close with, Pia? You want to tell people about the oracle cards, the energy calendar? What would you like to share?
All of the above.
Go ahead.
Anything that the Pleiadians have brought to humans to help us through this evolutionary period, we should take advantage of the tools that are here for us, that they have used Cullen and me with our permission to bring forth things to help people. The Oracle card deck that we just designed and produced is Larkma's wisdom in a nutshell. Instead of needing to read their books, which are masterpieces, they're really wonderful. If you need a quick answer for something going on in your life, you can flip to the Oracle card right now and get some insight that you need this moment.
Yeah.
The calendar is the moving away from time into energy, the understanding of energy.
The calendar is an amazing piece of information. It's not just a 12-month, 12-page calendar. It's 48 pages. It has a tremendous amount of information. It's like a small book. And it was born out of the Pleiadian Earth Energy book that Pia and I authored years ago. The calendar is a companion piece to this book, and it's amazing. We researched it and worked with our Pleiadian friends over it for years and years before we brought it to the public, because we wanted to be sure it made sense. And it really helps people get away from time and live their lives through the understanding of energy, not linearity, but energy.
And if anyone wants to know more about what is my energy, what is my mission, why am I here, what are my challenges, what is my karmic path that I'm working on, all of that stuff can be done with a Pleiadian Earth Energy chart, astrological chart. So all of that's available. The tools are here. Cullen and I offer them to people to be supportive. That's our life mission. We gave up 2 professional careers to do this work. So the tools are here. And the last thing I want to say is Venus is shining this light on us because now is the time.
And Kornelia, I want to go back just quickly to your second question. What can we be doing? What is available for us to work with? And this is not an answer to your question. It's a sidebar, or it's a possibility. I think focusing on service, I think actually using our light, using our wisdom, using the energy that we're aware of to be of service to all other energies. I think that is one of the greatest reasons why we're here, is to be of service.
And I'm going to add to that by saying that it would be a good idea to sit down with that question, what can I do to be of service? And make a list of your skills, what you're good at, what you like doing, not what you're going to make money with. Don't even think about that. Think about what you've got in your toolbox that you're really good at, that's natural for you, skills that you've developed over your lifetime. And then bring that to the question with that Cullen just said, what can I do to be of service? I just want to add to this by saying that we are already all in service by all of us anchoring in this beautiful light, the light of source, the light of God, the light of the universe that we are. We are of service already just by being that light. And now you can enhance that by expressing that light in ways that brings you joy, in ways that gives you joy, in ways that makes you feel good, because we love to give. You know what it's like when we're doing something for someone that is serving them, that is helping them, because we love to give. People love to give. And that's really true about humans, is that they love to be givers.
And there's another sidebar to this, exactly what you just suggested. It's easy to be of service when we feel good. It's easy to be of service when we're in joy, or when we're experiencing bliss. I think it's really important to understand that when we're not feeling so well, when we're having challenges, if we can be of service in those moments, that not only helps other people, but it raises our vibration to get us out of that space that we're in feeling so uncomfortable in. So it may be harder to be of service at that point,
but more potent.
But the power of the service, when we're coming from that space of not feeling balanced or not feeling ourselves, actually helps everyone, including us, at the same time, as you said a moment ago.
It was interesting. I just want to bring this up because it reminded me a little bit. Is recently I was around some people, and I didn't have any thoughts about anything other than I'm just here to chat and talk and whatever. And all of a sudden, 20 or 30 minutes into the conversation, all of a sudden I had these feelings of insecurity. And it was weird because I'm like, all of a sudden I was feeling insecure. I didn't have those feelings when I got there, and I didn't have those feelings before. So this is an important piece. You can shift your paradigm in the moment by realizing that, oh, this energy is also present here in the room. It may or may not be yours, but then what do you do when you're insecure? What's the antidote to that? What is it that you do? And that was a beautiful thing. The other thing I want to say about your energy calendar is your what is it called again? It's not called the energy calendar.
It's Pleiadian Earth energy calendar, because it's the Pleiadian help for Earth in our ascension process.
So I just want to say about that calendar, it's a paradigm shifter for you. So if you really want to get out of, if you're saying a lot in your life, like I'm running out of time, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough this, and I don't have enough that, that calendar is taking you into a whole new energy way of being and living that is authentic with your true nature. So I wanted to say that about the calendar. And the last thing I want to leave you all with is, when you're watching this video on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, because that helps us, create, more content for you. And the more people that like and subscribe to the channel, that's how you can give back to me. And that is greatly appreciated. All right. Well, it's wonderful. Thank you to our Facebook friends that were here today. joining, sending the hearts and sending the love. We appreciate you. And Pia and Cullen, I will see you next month. Who knows? It could be a whole different ball game by then.
Indeed. Thank you for the conversation, Kornelia. We appreciate the depth.
We always like these conversations because they bring up what's most important for us to talk about, feel into, and be part of. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in. I'm not even going to play the outro. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to close the show, and we'll see you next time. Take good care. Bye.